Seth Kaplan is a managing partner with Airline Weekly, an industry trade publication. He joins us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Seth, good to have you with us. I know you've been following this. What caught the Justice Department's attention?
Well, that's a question. We really don't know yet what exactly the allegations are. Look, one thing's indisputable. Airfares are higher now than they were just several years ago. Really, the first time in history that airlines have managed to do that. I mean, from the Wright brothers up until just about 5 or 6 years ago, airfares had done nothing but decline in inflation-adjusted terms. And it got so bad for the airlines that, of course, most of the U.S. airlines were bankrupt at one point last decade. So, they tried to take control of their situation through the mergers, charging all those fees that everybody hates. And yeah, by keeping capacity in check, because in the end, it's supply and demand economics. The question, though, is whether they somehow colluded to do that, or, in other words, hey, executives from competing airlines getting together in a room and saying, let's do this, or, whether they all just kind of learned the same lessons and decided to be a little smarter from their own perspective and avoid ending up in bankruptcy
again.
The
reality is those fares have been going up despite the fact that fuel prices have been going down substantially.
Yeah, and that's a question a lot of people ask. And again, we can only guess really what Justice at this point is thinking. But yeah, people say, why haven't airfares fallen alongside falling fuel prices? And the answer really is that there's always some lag time in either direction between what happens with fuel prices and what happens with airfares. A decade ago, actually, it was the airlines who were frustrated, who were saying, we can't manage to pass what were at that time rising fuel prices through to those consumers who just won't pay anymore for these airline tickets. And so then that's where they started the process of getting to where they are today. Now, very much the opposite. Fuel prices have fallen, but what happens is, airlines plan their capacity, basically how many seats to put into the marketplace, a number of months in advance. And so for the past several months, we've really been flying around on capacity that was planned back when fuel was expensive. Some of us on airline tickets that we actually bought back when fuel was still expensive. The good news, Antonio, for consumers is that as we look into the schedules in the coming months and into early next year, airlines actually are growing much more rapidly again, and that means almost certainly that airfares will continue declining as they've begun doing in a small way just the past couple months. So kind of ironic that, Justice probably working on this for a long time. Just as it comes out, we're really on the precipice of probably airfares starting to come down.
And the airlines argue, and they argued this in order to push those mergers through, is that people have enough options and that the mergers would give them more options, that there are low-cost carriers out there, and that people would abandon the big airlines if their prices weren't competitive. Do people have more options, or have the mergers narrowed things?
Well, let's be very clear. Companies merge for their own good, not for the good of consumers. But that doesn't mean that it has to necessarily be a bad thing for consumers. I mean, let's face it. Again, if we think back to where we were not too many years ago, yeah, you could fly around real inexpensively, but that was basically subsidized by airlines in bankruptcy. Laying off all our neighbors who were pilots and flight attendants.
Yeah, and the airlines have historically lost more money than they've actually made. So, is it a good thing to have airlines that are healthy financially, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good thing to have a healthy balance. I mean, you wouldn't want it to swing too far in the other direction, but I'm not sure we're there. When we hear these statistics about, 4 airlines control 80% of the market, well, I mean, 4 cell phone companies, control 90% of that market, and most of us just have about that many choices with most things we do in our daily lives. So really what's happened is airlines have managed to make their industry just kind of look a little bit more like all other industries, and yeah, they've been making money finally on a consistent basis in recent years, but profits that still wouldn't make, Google jealous or anything like that. Right. Just doing a lot better than they had themselves done. So when you compare it to that, if you want to start history in 2009, yeah, airfares are high, but still a rather good deal in historical terms.
Seth Kaplan from Airline Weekly. It's good to have you with us. Thanks.